Good afternoon and welcome to the Daily News Analysis by Civil Service Institute Pala. Let's look at the top stories of the day. Shukla makes the most of final days in orbit ahead of Axiom-4 mission's undocking. Enforcement Directorate conducts fresh searches in US donkey road case. Simultaneous election bill gives Election Commission unbridled powers. Loopholes remain. Ex-CGIs. Genetic analysis of Assam rhino horn samples initiated. India to host international conference on manuscript heritage on September 11 to 13. Maratha fort systems get UNESCO heritage tag. Imposing any language as the medium of instruction is unacceptable. View India's gender gap report ranking as a warning. News in detail. Let's start with the first news. Shukla makes the most of final days in orbit ahead of Axiom-4 mission's undocking. With the undocking of the Axiom Mission 4 from the International Space Station to take place on July 14, Indian astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla continued his experiments on board the orbiting laboratory. Axiom Space said the crew was making the most of its final days in orbit. They are conducting a range of experiments that could shape the future of space exploration and improve life on Earth. It also said Group Captain Shukla is currently working on microalgae experiment, deploying and storing samples that could one day provide food, oxygen, and biofuels for deep space missions. The crew also continued the Voyager display study, which examines how spaceflight affects eye movement and coordination. The crew collected data for the 𝗗𝗶𝗆𝘆 study, exploring how astronauts perceive and interact with their environment in orbit. ED conducts fresh searches in US donkey road case. The Enforcement Directorate on Friday carried out another round of searches in Punjab and Haryana in connection with the US donkey road case involving alleged human trafficking and money laundering. So what is this donkey route? The donkey or donkey route has existed for decades and is known for its perilous and illegal migration paths. The donkey comes from Punjabi idiom. It refers to the long winding, often dangerous routes that people across the world take to reach the places they want to immigrate to. These journeys are undertaken due to lack of requisite legal permits or financial resources. And the rise in Indian illegal immigration to the US is on increase. According to Pew Research Center, the number of Indians illegally entering the United States has increased from 8,000 in 2018 to approximately 7.25 lakh in 2022-23. India is the only country in the top 5 sources of immigration to the US outside Latin America. Since 2011, the undocumented Indian population in the US has grown by 70%. US Customs and Border Protection data shows the sharpest increase occurred between 2020 to 2023. So here, I would like to give you an exercise. It's a homework for you. Please find out where is Darien Gap located and map it on your atlas and find out more about the Darien Gap, the most dangerous and perilous route Latin Americans take to reach America. Moving on to the next news. Here, simultaneous election bill gives Election Commission unbridled powers, loopholes remain, says ex-Chief Justices of India. So the Election Commission is currently under fire due to the special intensive revision of electoral rolls for the state assembly elections in the state of Bihar. So this article is with regard to the One Nation, One Election policy of the central government. The Election Commission has been granted unbridled powers in the legislation for simultaneous polls without providing any oversight clause. Two former Chief Justices of India, 𝗖𝗹𝘆𝘀𝗀 and J.S. 𝗗𝗃𝘀, told the Parliament's Joint Committee reviewing the bill. Both the former CGIs, however, argued that the bill does not in any way violate the basic structure, doctrine of the Indian Constitution. The panel reviewing the Constitution's 129th Amendment Bill 2024 and the Union Territories Laws Amendment Bill 2024, both Justice Chandrachud and Justice 𝗗𝗃 pointed out that while the Election Commission gets a wide array of powers to decide when and whether to hold elections in a state or not, the laws have not prescribed any oversight mechanism to check the Election Commission's powers. In an earlier meeting, former CGI Ranjan Gogoi too had similar observation. Justice 𝗗𝗃 further suggested that Parliament or the Union Council of Ministers should have a say in taking the call on holding the election to an assembly as envisaged under Section 82A subclause 5 of the Constitution's 129th Amendment Bill. The section in its current form says if the Election Commission is of the opinion that the elections to any legislative assembly cannot be conducted along with the general election to the House of the People, it may make a recommendation to the President to declare by any order that the election to that legislative assembly may be conducted at a later date. Both former CGIs flagged the loophole in the provision that says that if a state assembly's session is cut short, then the elections have to be held for the remainder of the term. So it is learned that one of the Chief Justices has asked that if the remaining period is only 3 months or a week, as per the laws in the current form, the elections will have to be held, defeating the very purpose for which these bills are being brought. Justice Chandrachud also concurred with this view, arguing that Parliament must define the remaining period. Leaving it undefined will open it to various interpretations and also allow the government an easy way to impose President's rule. So let's wait and watch what will happen to one nation, one election policy. Genetic analysis of Assam rhino horn samples initiated. So as we all know, Assam and the Kaziranga National Park is very famous for one-horned rhinos. A specialized team has initiated the genetic analysis of samples collected from 2,573 rhino horns, most of which were destroyed by the Assam Forest Division 4 years ago. The vials have to be transported to the genetic laboratory in Dehradun's Wildlife Institute of India for DNA analysis. During the process, tiny samples were retained from the horns to undertake studies expected to aid better management of the current rhino population. The Wildlife Institute's Genetics Laboratory is central to the RODIS, Rhino DNA Index System India program. This analysis aims to document the individual DNA profiles of the rhino horn and add them to the RODIS India DNA data library. Further, this analysis will also help in identifying if any changes have taken place to the short tandem repeat, a specific type of DNA sequence, allele frequency over the years, the official said. Now, India to host International Conference on Manuscript Heritage from September 11 to 13 this year. India will host the first International Manuscript Heritage Conference, which will be attended by global scholars, leaders, and cultural custodians from across the world. The 3-day conference, titled Reclaiming India's Knowledge Legacy Through Manuscript Heritage, is being organized in the national capital as part of the launch of the 𝗗𝗏𝗏 mission. The conference will also commemorate Swami Vivekananda's Chicago address on September 11, 1893, symbolizing India's intellectual and spiritual global vision. The center had announced the 𝗗𝗏𝗏 mission in the Union Budget 2025-2026 for reviewing and expanding the vision of the National Mission for Manuscripts launched in 2003. The 𝗗𝗏𝗏 mission seeks to preserve, digitize, and disseminate manuscript knowledge, integrate it with modern technologies, and foster a new generation of scholars and institutions to carry the legacy forward. There will be numerous side events such as exhibition on Indian manuscripts and also on the manuscripts inscribed in the UNESCO Memory of the World. So, which Indian manuscripts are part of UNESCO Memory of the World Register? Recently, this year, Bhagavad Gita and Bharata Muni's Natya Shastra were included in the register. Last year, in 2024, Ramacharita Panchatantra, and 𝗗𝗲𝗏𝘀𝗀 were inscribed in the Memory of the World Register. So again, it's a homework for you to find out how many Indian manuscripts are part of UNESCO Memory of the World Register. And please take note of these. It can be important from art and culture perspective. Again, another news which is important from the art and culture perspective and also from the prelims perspective is Maratha fort systems get UNESCO heritage tag. So Maratha military landscape was included in the tentative list last year. So recently, Maratha military landscape representing extraordinary fortification and military system envisioned by the Maratha rulers was inscribed on the coveted UNESCO World Heritage List. The decision was taken during the ongoing 47th session of the World Heritage Committee being held in Paris. Its 12 components are Salhar Fort, Shivneri Fort, Khanderi, Raigad, Pratapgarh, Suvarnadurg, Sindhudurg, Vijayadurg, Panhala, and Jinji Fort. So becoming India's 44th property to receive this recognition. So Maratha fort systems, Maratha military landscape is the 44th site from India to receive this recognition. This global accolade celebrates India's enduring cultural legacy, showcasing its diverse traditions of architectural brilliance, regional identity, and historical continuity. So here I've given an image of Pratapgarh Fort, and you can also see Raigad Fort here. So the Maratha military landscape is spread across the states of Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu. So please do take note. It is spread across the states of Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu, not only restricted to Maharashtra. Last year, the Moidans of Chardio, Assam were inscribed in the World Heritage List at the 46th session of the World Heritage Committee held in New Delhi. India ranks 6th globally and 2nd in Asia Pacific region for the most number of World Heritage sites. 196 nations have ratified the World Heritage Convention 1972. India also has 62 sites in the tentative list of the World Heritage, which is a mandatory threshold for any site to be considered as a World Heritage property in future. Every year, each state party may propose just one site for consideration of the World Heritage Committee for inscription to the World Heritage List. On behalf of Government of India, Archaeological Survey of India is the nodal agency of all the World Heritage related matters in the country. Now, this is from the Hindu's editorial. English Dreams, imposing any language as the medium of instruction is unacceptable. English medium education is an inspiration for many Indians, but state policy regarding the medium of instruction has been uneven across time and regions. The ongoing language debate in India, which stems from the renewed efforts of the central government to enforce a three-language policy, has many components, the medium of instruction being one. So recently, the state of Maharashtra witnessed a huge uproar over Hindi versus Marathi, pertaining to the three-language formula of the national education policy. So educationists generally argue that instruction in the mother tongue helps children achieve better learning goals in their early stages of development. This view is supported by pedagogical research, but other factors such as constitutional rights and ground realities are also to be considered. India's linguistic diversity and distribution is such that even the question of what is a child's mother tongue can often be contested. There is also the constitutional question of freedom of expression and choice. In 2014, after a huge legal tussle, the Supreme Court of India held that a Karnataka government order of 1994 that made instruction in Kannada mandatory until class 4 was not valid under the Constitution. Children have the right to choose, and the state cannot enforce its view on what is good for them. The rights of private educational institutions to offer education as per market demand is another related issue. So the national educational policy that is being aggressively pushed by the center has a particularly anti-English edge, which is not in line with popular aspirations. Many states that want to promote their local language and culture also want to promote English education and English as a medium of instruction. So, especially in the southern states like Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu, there are aided English medium schools. The demand for English medium education is growing, and this includes even in the Hindi speaking regions, which is met largely by substandard and expensive private institutions. English skills help individuals and the country in gaining a place in the global services sector. So, as you know, India's service sector is world famous. India's subaltern caste groups, in particular, seek to empower themselves through English education, which remains a currency for upward mobility. If state schools do not offer such English medium instruction, relatively the richer families can afford their children in private schools. In this context, education becomes a continuing reproduction and even aggregation of social inequalities, which is the exact opposite of the national education policy's purpose. The fact is that knowledge of English is empowering and convertible for other outcomes. There can be a debate on whether it should be the medium of instruction at the primary level. It's a just cause. For the primary level, we can use mother tongue, but a basic test of any policy is in how it advances the ambitions of the most disadvantaged sections. But in the upper primary and in the secondary and higher education levels, English can be an option, and English medium can foster new opportunities and it can aid in the global services sector. The last article for the day, this is again from the Hindu's editorial. View India's gender gap report ranking as a warning. So India is now a global economic power, a digital innovator, and home to the world's largest youth population. We are blessed with a demographic dividend. But the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report is a sobering reminder that when it comes to gender equality, India remains far behind. So India ranks 131 out of 148 countries with particularly low scores in economic participation, health and survival categories. Despite progress in educational attainment, India continues to struggle in ensuring women's health and autonomy. The report shows that India's sex ratio at birth remains among the most skewed in the world. The healthy life expectancy for women is now lower than men. So, this points out to chronic neglect in reproductive health, preventive care, and nutrition, especially for women from lower income and rural background. Increased budget allocations for health, especially at the primary care level, is most important for India. So, as you all know, India's out-of-pocket expenditure is highest in the world. So, it is an urgent requirement that budget allocations for health, especially at the primary healthcare level, should be increased to prevent greater out-of-pocket expenditures, to prevent greater out-of-pocket expenditures. Without good health, economic inclusion becomes impossible. Nearly 57% of Indian women in the 15 to 49 age group category are anemic. And this reduces their ability to learn, work, or carry pregnancies safely. Women continue to earn less than a third of what men do, and female labor force participation remains stubbornly low. The McKinsey Global Institute in 2015 had projected that closing gender gaps could add $770 billion to India's GDP by 2025. So we are aspiring to be a $1 trillion democracy. And if we want our economy to grow and boom, more women should participate and women should be included in the labor force. Women should be included and they should be paid at par with men. Women remain busy in informal and subsistence work and are grossly underrepresented in decision-making spaces. The result is a policy ecosystem that repeatedly sidelines women's realities. The burden of unpaid care work continues to be a major drag on women's time and agency. Investing in care infrastructure such as childcare centers, elder care services, and maternity benefits would not only ease the burden but also enable millions of women to enter or re enter the workforce. Central and state governments should take initiative to account for unpaid care work in their economic and social policy frameworks and should use time use surveys, gender budgeting, and direct investment in care infrastructure. India could take and look at the examples of countries such as Uruguay and South Korea, which have begun integrating care economies into their development plans. And they have gained positive results from such initiatives. India is at a demographic turning point. As I said, India is blessed with a demographic dividend. But while it continues to draw benefits from a young population, its percentage of senior citizens is expected to nearly double by 2050, reaching close to 20% of the population. This demographic shift will predominantly comprise very old women, especially widows, who often experience high dependency. The fertility rates at the same time have already fallen below replacement level. So this means that the working age population will shrink and the care needs of the elderly will rise. The only way to sustain economic growth in this context is to ensure women, that is half of the population, are healthy, supported, and economically active and stable. So gender equality is no longer just a rights issue, it is a demographic and economic necessity. If women continue to exit or to be excluded from the workforce, the dependency ratio will rise even faster, placing greater strain on fewer workers and undermining fiscal stability. So integrated policies that connect health, labor, and social protection has to be envisioned. And India does not lack frameworks or ambition, but what it needs is to prioritize women's needs in care services that redistribute unpaid work and in policies that see women not as beneficiaries but as builders of India's future economy. With this, we come to an end of the session. Thank you. Have a nice day.